Welcome to episode 10 of the Hodgepodge Podcast. I'm your host, Doug.
And I'm Dirty A. As the name suggests, we're going to talk about a hodgepodge of topics, anywhere from movies to music, TV, and other pop culture events.
And today we're joined by special guest author Matthew King to discuss Thor, the Dark World, as well as the Marvel Cinematic Universe at large. You can reach us at the Hodgepodge Podcast at gmail.com or on our website, thehodgepodgepodcast.com, or over at my review blog, dougreviews.blogspot.com. And when we decided to talk about the new Thor movie, I thought it would be a good idea to expand the conversation to a bunch of comic book movies, because it's the big thing right now.
Yep.
And with that line of thinking, I thought it would be good to go to one of my experts on all things Marvel, and that's author Matthew King. Welcome, Matt.
Hooray. Hey, what's up, man? I feel like I should have a name. Do I have, like, Soiled M?
You could be Soiled.
Like, mildly, all right, then.
The story behind that nickname is actually very funny.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into that someday.
Someday.
Not today.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Matt, for the audience.
Well, as you said, I'm an author. I write about superhero fiction, which is part of the reason I'm here today, since we're talking about Marvel and DC movies. Been a comic book reader for a long time now, and I feel like we're in a golden age of superhero movies. So
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think I've seen them all, even Green Lantern, unfortunately.
Best of the bunch.
Yeah.
What?
Academy Award-winning Green Lantern.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Rob.
Police Academy Award-winning.
Yeah.
I love the superhero genre, so I can't wait to talk about this stuff with you guys.
Cool.
And tell you why you're wrong about a number of topics. We'll get into that.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Why don't we dive right in here and start talking about
All right.
Thor 2, or the Dark World.
First off, with Thor, I was very upset that it did not go to the world of Hyrule and include Link and Zelda, Princess Zelda.
I think we were all a bit let down.
Like A Link to the Past.
Yeah, right,
So,
right.
Strike one against Thor.
That was the obvious place to go with that.
It was. Thor the Dark World came out this past weekend on the 8th of November. And it's the further adventures of Thor, the guy with the hammer. He's played by Chris Hemsworth again. And, basically, I don't know. There's not much I can really say about it. Because
Agreed.
It looked good. It definitely looked good. They go to Asgard more in this one, which I liked a lot.
It makes a little more sense to me in that aspect of it. But basically, if you've seen the first one, there's not much value add in this one for me. And
right.
I am not a comic book. I have no stake in the comic books. So,
right.
As we all know, I've never have been much of a reader. Even
not
as
a big
kid.
reader.
I'm the geek who never read comics.
More of a flashcard kind of guy.
Right.
But yeah, so basically, there's a villain played by he's Malekith, played by Christopher Eccleston, who formerly of Doctor Who and Destro fame from G.I. Joe the movie.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And he's trying to find a magical substance called the Ether to destroy the universe or something.
Bring it back to darkness, Doug.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Right, that's true. That's true. That's the only thing I did pick out about your review is that the plot, you muddled the plot a little bit because it is not to destroy the world. It's to bring darkness into the whole universe.
He's constantly saying, I'm going to destroy your universe. And I'm like,
your universe, right.
I know, but he's still there. He's in the universe.
What he means is to create his universe, to create the dark universe.
Either
way, we're arguing a fine point because the movie that is not a point that causes the movie to fail or succeed.
That's true. He's kind of a weak villain, which is a shame because in the comic books he's kind of a big deal, isn't he?
You know what? Not really.
Never mind that.
Obviously,
I don't read Thor.
Marvel Jam.
Well, you're not alone. I don't think he's a huge seller, but I thought Malekith was kind of an odd choice just because he was sort of a weak villain in the comics.
Okay.
And also in the comics, I want to say that the MacGuffin with him was the Casket of Winners, which is what was featured in the first Thor movie.
Right, that's the thing that Loki was trying to get to the
Frost also bringing him almost out of context into the story.
Yeah, so you sort of take away his one, big thing he was after in the comics, and you replace it with the Ether, that's fine, but he was just never a real interesting character to begin with.
Right. I mean,
that's interesting because I find that they have made weird choices in a lot of the superhero Marvel movies.
Yeah.
The villains that they decide to put in.
Yeah.
I would not ones I would necessarily go with.
Where's MODOK? But anyway,
you don't know. He could be coming.
He could be Captain America.
Yeah. The Russos, who were doing the new Captain America movie, have said on multiple occasions how much they like MODOK.
Nice. It's got to be Peter Dinklage, though.
Well, I guess his head, at least.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you who don't know who MODOK is, we will flash a picture of him up here so you know what we're talking about. Yeah. I actually took one at Universal. At Universal. So basically, Thor, his girlfriend, played by Natalie Portman, Jane Foster, she gets entangled in this ether thing. And so Thor has to come and save her, basically. And that's how he gets involved in it. But the movie, for me, really doesn't even start until Loki gets involved.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when the movie really picks up.
Which I gotta say, inexplicably, she gets involved. Like, somehow she's the one.
Yeah, it's pretty random.
Thor's girlfriend.
Yeah.
That gets sucked in into granted, I know she's an astrophysicist type of person who's researching it, but there were tons of people there before her and they didn't get sucked in.
Exactly, and the other thing is too, that's a good point because they kind of sort of wasted a good opportunity to maybe introduce somebody else from the Marvel universe that could have gotten involved. Don't ask me who, but because. Not that I'm complaining about seeing Natalie Portman, because I love me some Natalie Portman, but not the most compelling Marvel character out there.
No.
It was a convenience, but you know what? Those things are littered throughout comic book movies.
Movies in general.
Movies in general. It's just there to push the plot along. I mean, I suppose you could explain it in that, she was using her instrument to look for this nexus, and she actually found it, and then went through to where the ether was.
Right. That is one of my bigger problems here. What you just said, to push the plot along. If it's not a naturally progressive thing,
right?
Sometimes it just feels tedious, like you're being pushed into it.
Well,
right?
That's one of my beefs with the movie is that the whole, I would say, first half hour felt kind of like that to me.
Yeah. Everything was a big accident.
It was a series of coincidences that just happened to push the plot along,
Right.
And it was just kind of ham-fisted and poorly done, I think. But you're right, it does pick up in the middle.
There's
when Loki
on
and Thor get it.
Right.
On Naboo.
Yeah, on Naboo, yeah.
I felt like they took Naboo and just there's Asgard. Naboo.
A little bit. The ships did look a little bit like the
when
ships
they put
from
the
Star
ship
Wars.
Over the water in the bridge. I was like,
it made the same sound.
I was like, I've seen this scene before.
It does. It makes the exact same sound as the ships from the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. I thought Asgard looked really good.
I did too.
It looked great.
Naboo looked like a crayon.
Yeah, it looked great. It was flashbacks of episode.
Yeah. And you've got, and obviously Loki is played again by Tom Hiddleston, who has now become the Magneto of the Marvel universe, the Marvel Studios universe, I should say, because they have to put him in every single one.
Well, I don't know who wrote it. There's an interesting article out this week about that, about how Marvel is lacking in villains, and he is the only villain that they have that's even sort of compelling right now.
Well, the biggest problem with that, though, too, is that Marvel's, I would say, probably their biggest villain is stuck over at Fox, because it's Dr. Doom.
And
he's stuck at Fox.
And man, did they shit on him. Fox shit on that fucking character.
Yeah, that was Fantastic Four movies are awful. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Other people in this, Idris Elba is given a little bit more screen time.
Heimdall's great.
Heimdall. And he's great, as always.
Yeah. It's always nice to see wire actors getting work.
Yeah.
White people talk about The Wire.
And then the Warriors 3 are in it a little bit more. I would have liked to have seen more of them, though. I would have liked to see more Sif.
Well, I'll watch a Sif movie at the end of the week.
Well, you might just get your chance, because...
she's not going to be Wonder Woman.
I don't know.
Is that... Oh, that's news.
That's a rumor.
One of the rumors?
The rumor is DC has talked to her about possibly being Wonder
I don't doubt
Woman.
that they've talked to her, but I don't think she's going to be Wonder Woman.
She's better than the other 3 choices I saw recently.
Well, you're right.
I mean,
but I
she
think
actually
those
looks
other
like
3
her.
choices are probably closer to getting the part than she is.
Really?
Yeah. I think they think that she's pretty well tied in with.
Yeah, she's already been introduced as this confusing or
no, not really. I mean, it's just. Universe. I mean, well, for shit's sake, you made Human Torch Captain America for Christ's sake. So
I agree. I don't think anyone really would take that much notice, but yeah.
Anyway,
but you're going from one warrior, a female warrior.
Yeah, but
and it might prevent her in future movies from taking on a larger role.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, because I see. I only see her showing up in the Thor movies, really.
No, I meant in the Thor.
But that's the thing. It's like, I mean, they recast the other guy. They put Zachary Levi. Yeah, it's Fandral. They put Zachary Levi in there, who was supposed to be him originally.
He was, but Chuck interrupted that.
Yeah,
and
so
now it's like the other guy couldn't be in this one because of Once Upon a Time.
Right.
And so who the original guy got back in?
That's funny. It's the same kind of thing happened in the Dune miniseries that they did on Sci-Fi. They wanted Alice Krige to be. His mother,
Thor, actually.
Yeah, she was. So they wanted her to be Paul's mother, and then she couldn't do it, so they got somebody else. And then for the next one, the other one couldn't do it, so they brought her back to be Paul's mother for the Children of Dune, I guess. But I digress. Kat Dennings is back in this movie.
Unfortunately, nothing against Kat Dennings.
No, yeah, I liked her in the first one, but in this one, her
character was awful.
See, this is one area I think that improved on the second viewing. So I've seen this movie twice.
I'm sorry.
These 2 guys have only seen it once.
Why?
We only will see it
once. and that will not change.
And the only time I might see this one again is for the possible Avengers marathon for Phase 2, possibly.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so I thought, the first time I watched it, I was like, oh man, I never want to see Darcy in a movie again.
Right.
But I don't know why, the second time I was there, her humor worked better, I thought.
It was the boobs.
It was the boobs.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought she was better the second time around. I wasn't nearly as annoyed with her. There's still a couple parts where I would say, okay, you don't need Darcy in this scene.
I think that's pretty much any part. I think you could extrapolate her from the whole entire movie. I think that was my main problem. That's little. That might be the stretch. One of my larger problems with the movie was the tone that they kept trying to insert too much comedy. I'm fine. I love having your bits of comedy relief in these movies.
Right.
But to me, way too much in this. The whole Darcy character, the only reason she existed in this movie was for that.
Yeah.
And everything out of her mouth was just something that was supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Or like stupid funny. And to me, there really was only one comedy bit, I'm not going to ruin it, that worked in this whole movie.
Yeah, the cameo.
Yeah,
the cameo in the middle.
The cameo was fantastic.
That was the only comedy bit that worked in the whole movie for me. The rest of it just seemed forced and just too much.
Well, see, that's the thing. And I think that's the way Marvel's kind of going with their stuff. I would say ever since Avengers, because Avengers was actually very, very funny. Iron Man 3 was almost a straight-up comedy.
Yeah. But I agree. Well, I agree with Avengers, but it worked in Avengers.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Very subtle, and
But that's what I'm saying, because Avengers made,
they're
a gazillion dollars. They're sticking with it. Now they're like, oh, we're the funny comic books now. It's like,
well, I don't see. I disagree. I don't think they're going that far in the comedy direction. I think they're going farther than DC does, and that's one of my beefs with a couple of the recent DC movies is that they are almost humorless. And I think in order to appreciate a lot of the drama that you have in these movies, you have to have some lighthearted moments too. You have to.
Right.
I agree 100%. Like I said, I
it does need to work though.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You do need comedy in the dramas, but it's just too much here for me.
If it's forced, it's bad. It felt forced the first time I watched it. Second time, I don't know if it's because I was expecting it. Or
it might have been that.
I think you're used to it.
Because to be honest, this weekend I went to go see the Wolverine again in the $2 theater.
Did you leave after like 2/3 of the movie?
No, and it's actually not 2/3.
And then I timed it. A great movie.
Yeah, I timed it. It is almost exactly the last 15 minutes of the movie. So so the first 2 hours are fine.
When the robot comes in, that's when you have to leave the theater.
Yeah. But see, then I wanted to come back and watch the end because I did like the scene at the airport at the end. But
that was a great scene.
Not just that one. I mean, but when he's leaving Japan with
the actual, not the cutscene, but the
But for me, the Wolverine worked better the second time around. But I think it's also because I knew what was going to happen.
You acclimated yourself
right.
to what was coming.
Right.
So it's almost forgivable.
Exactly.
A little bit, yeah.
Exactly. With the Thor movies, both of them, and I like the first one better, because I don't want listeners to think that I'm just shitting on Thor, because I did like the first one a lot. It's that...
I didn't.
I know you didn't. It's the Thor movies, more than any other of the Marvel movies, to me, feel like, okay, here comes Avengers, or here comes some... it feels like they're constantly gearing up for, like, the next thing with Thor. And, like, it's just kind of like... It almost feels like they don't even know what to do with him. And that's, like... They're like, yeah, we'll just do this, and it'll be fantasy crazy stuff, and then... bleh. And that's kind of how it feels to me. It's...
Well, do you think that might be because you are knowledgeable about the Avengers, and you're knowledgeable about the comic book stuff, so you recognize a lot of these sort of tie-ins to the greater Marvel Universe?
Maybe.
Like a general audience is not going to look at or hear the words Infinity Stones and go, "Oh my God, this whole thing was..."
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's possible. I mean, I had to explain to one of my friends. I mean, she asked me a ton of questions about the mid-credit scene, and I had to tell her who the person was and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, we can talk about that if you want. I mean,
I don't know how much you want to get into spoilers, but
we don't care.
We can't. Spoiler alert from here on out.
Spoiler alert! This was not a good movie.
No, you're wrong.
Sorry. I'm not wrong.
You are wrong.
I'm correct.
I will say this. Of the Marvel Studio movies that they put out, I probably like this one the least of all of them.
No, Iron 3 has that for me. The difference between Iron 3 or Iron Man 3, sorry. Iron Man 3 and The Dark World is, after I watched Iron Man 3 a second time, I still thought it was bad.
Yeah, I'm not saying that was necessarily a better movie.
Right.
But
by any means.
The Dark World was different. I saw it a second time, and I was like, okay, that wasn't nearly as bad as it was the first time.
Right.
And you know what? I think
so F+.
let's get into D- range. D-.
It's not, and listen, folks, I'm not calling it a terrible movie.
No, it's not. It's not.
But it's just
mediocre.
Yeah, but it was nothing to write home about.
Right.
And part of this is expectations too. I think.
For sure.
I had huge expectations going into this movie.
Are you kidding me? A Adonis dude with a hammer? I was all over it.
Godlike expectations for this movie. And it didn't meet those expectations.
Yeah.
And so there's that inherent disappointment when you walk out. It's like, oh, it wasn't as great as I wanted it to be. But then I think the second time
you prepared for that.
I watched all that out.
I kind of felt like that The Dark Knight Rises, honestly.
I can see that.
Because The Dark Knight Rises, those trailers were incredible. And then you're just like, ah! And then you're like, wait, what? 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 Huh?
Yeah. That's fair enough.
But, you know me. I still love that movie.
I didn't have any expectations in this movie because, again, I didn't like the first one. So right. I even mentioned to you, Doug, a few times that the trailers looked, for me, better than the first one.
Well, see, for me...
And to me, it was. It was, from what I recall, I really need to go back and watch the original Thor. But this was better than the first one. It just still was a little flat for me.
I mean, for me, the trailers for the Phase 2 stuff so far, Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World, I could never really get behind them. The Thor one, I would watch the trailer, just like, yeah, okay, whatever. The Captain America one, Winter Soldier, looks incredible. Yeah, and that movie looks like it's going to be amazing.
But on that same token, don't you appreciate the character Captain America more than you do Thor? So aren't you a little...
Yes, but I think... And that is true, because of all the solo movies, I've been waiting for the Captain America one more, because I think the first Captain America movie lent itself better to a sequel than all the other ones.
And every movie is subjective. But it's true. If you have a favorite character, you're going to be looking forward to that movie, and you're going to forgive a lot more.
I think you could also be harder on it.
You could be,
exactly, because I'm a lot harder on the X-Men movies than I am
let me
on
say a general person.
And I
think
X-Men.
A general person is a lot more forgiving for something for a character that they love.
Not us nerds.
Yeah.
See, I was going into it hoping for a great villain, even though I knew Malekith wasn't the greatest villain outside of the movie universe. I thought they could improve upon that. And really bring something special, and he was awful.
Yeah,
and that did not improve in the second.
No, it didn't. It was almost like, to be honest, even towards the end, I was like, was he really the true villain, or maybe it's the guy he's created? Is that supposed to be?
I thought Curse was really cool.
Curse
was really cool.
Yeah, and I couldn't pick apart who the mastermind villain was. I was just like, okay.
Yeah, Malekith is just, he had a weak motivation.
Yeah.
It was a problem, I think, that he spoke in Elvish for 3/4 of the movie.
Right.
Just because it felt so forced to listen to him enunciate these words.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes away from the scene, I think,
Right.
to at that point be reading subtitles.
Now you said there was a cut scene or something like that
Right.
that kind of explained his motivation a little bit more.
Yeah, there was... so the beginning of this movie, like we spoke about earlier, just felt really kind of herky-jerky and thrown together.
Right.
And there's a voiceover by Odin
Right.
telling you the plot.
The
of movie.
expositional voice.
It was very Lord of the Rings.
Never a good idea.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
Except it worked way better in Lord of the
You
Rings.
could have added 5 more minutes to the opening of the movie and shown everything that he talked about in that opening.
Agreed. My eyes rolled.
It would have improved.
I immediately heard the voiceover. My eyes immediately rolled. I was like, "Oh, here we go. We're gonna give a voiceover exposition."
Well, it was a repeat from Thor 1.
Yeah.
Odin starts talking, but in that movie, he's talking to Thor and Loki as kids, like telling them the story.
Yeah, it's
Right.
part
This
of the movie.
he's just
Talking to the audience.
who's he talking to? You know, I expected Thor and Loki kids again. You know,
But I almost feel, I mean, I mentioned Lord of the Rings. I almost feel like they were kind of trying to tie it to Lord of the Rings a little bit too. You know, kind of
the
make
super
it-
merging of brands.
make it feel like Lord of the Rings.
To be,
Well,
I'm
that's-
not gonna lie.
that's every fanboy's doctrine.
I felt that more. I thought that he looked like almost a villain in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The whole elvish thing.
Malekith?
Yeah. Malekith.
Well, yeah, the elf thing. But so getting back to that scene,
Right.
the beginning.
Sorry.
Supposedly there was a part cut out that Alan Taylor put in there about Bor, who was introduced in the beginning, Odin's father?
Yeah.
Thor's grandfather. Where he goes to Svartalheim and basically kills Malekith's family.
Right.
And that is the motivation.
Oh, so it's a
Yeah.
family feud type of thing.
Yeah, so he...
Richard Dawkins shows up. Dawson.
Bor
Richard
kisses
Dawkins
all
been every different person.
Yeah, different person altogether.
Dawkins is like, none of you exist.
yeah.
Dawson just kisses everybody in Malekith's family, and that's it.
Yeah.
He kisses Sif a lot.
Okay, all right. So they just
Yeah, so Bor came down and killed Malekith's family. So there was what they mentioned in the movie, which is Bor taking the ether away from Malekith. But
Right.
in the process, he also killed Malekith's family. So there was that added motivation for Malekith to go to Asgard.
That would have worked a lot better.
You know, wreck some shit, when he gets to
Interesting.
Asgard. So yeah, I think that would have worked a whole lot better, and it would have added maybe one more dimension to Malekith, who was so two-dimensional. with
Yeah.
him.
yeah.
I mean, he was just a device.
It was a mustache twirling villain. Like, I'm gonna ruin everything.
Yeah.
You know, that's
And so what was that? What was that you were saying again about this being a good movie?
I'm forgetting that. So I went in the second time thinking, all right, so yeah, Malekith sucks, and so now I can kind of just forget everything with him in it, and so then you could appreciate Curse more. You could appreciate the Thor Loki stuff more. It was, I'd already written that part off.
Oh, I see. You forget all the bad parts about the movie, and it can become a good movie.
And then it's A+. If you take away the F- stuff, it is an A+ movie.
It's fair. I mean, it's fair. Different perspective, different viewing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different expectations. You go in not thinking it's going to be the greatest
Now,
thing.
I don't. I mean, I honestly don't consider this big a spoiler. But so the whole cutscene at the end of this, I
Which one,
assume
the first one?
the collector.
Okay.
I assume he is part of the larger universe.
He's part of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Which comes out in August.
Okay.
Yeah, August
All right.
2014.
All right.
So it's not the next movie in line, but it is
Right.
sort of a tie-in to the whole Marvel universe.
Okay.
Do you think that they'll put another one in Captain America for that, or do you think that'll be closer to just Avengers?
No, I think Cap... They've said that Cap is the biggest catalyst, I think, behind the events of Age of Ultron, the next Avengers
Oh,
movie.
really?
Yeah, so I think what we see in
That'll be a
Cap
tie into
will be
Avengers.
because I don't think Guardians, I think, will be more of a tie-in to Avengers 3.
Right. It's probably not going to have its own time, but it'll tie in
because it's supposed to take place in its own little section of the
Right.
universe,
Right,
separate
yeah.
from everybody else.
Yeah.
This thing about Asgardians getting in touch with the Collector is the one real way that could tie in the two
Right.
sections of the universe. I think.
Right.
So it was smart in that respect. It looked a little bit like a Doctor Who set.
You did.
It did. It
It
really
was
did.
really weird. I was
So,
like, Benicio del
I know that
Toro,
James
Doctor-
Gunn sort of has his own ideas of how this movie is going to look, and he's even stated it's more of a Galaxy Quest vibe than a Star Wars type vibe.
And that's fine, but then you mentioned another movie that it might be more like, which I wasn't too thrilled with.
Wait, which one was this?
Fifth Element.
Oh, Fifth Element. You're right.
Yeah.
I got such a large fan base, but I was not.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of that movie. Everyone seems to love it.
I say that because of the designs. I think of some of the characters are more Fifth Element looking.
Oh, so it's gonna be more like Ruby, whatever his name is, Chris Tucker, that type of stuff.
You look at that kind of thing, and that's gonna be more.
That's just like weird, just to be weird.
Yeah.
But you know what? The Guardians books aren't like the super serious.
Oh no, I know that. I know that.
I know that. They're campy. And
I know that.
So I fully expect the movie will be campy.
Yeah.
And this is another thing where expectations are going to come into it. If you go in there expecting Star Wars Episode 7...
Oh, no, I'm not expecting
that.
Happen. I'm not expecting that. I mean, I haven't even seen the trailer yet. I mean, there's no trailer yet.
There is.
Even when I think about Star Wars Episode 7, I don't think about Star Wars Episode 7.
Yeah, I know.
So,
we're too old to be in that, to do that video audition anyway. Sucks.
Speak for yourself.
He shaves. He looks like he's 12.
You see what's behind you? You see what's behind you? I'm ready, man.
I
got my lightsaber and robe ready to go, baby.
Mom, shut up! I'm doing an audition. You're 40.
So,
Mom, meatloaf.
Now, so that's Thor. We have 2. You can probably skip it. 1, maybe go see it.
Yes. Well, I say skip it. I say wait for.
It's better than Man of Steel.
Oh, man.
There it is.
Dropped the bomb. He dropped the bomb, and he waited.
There we go.
He waited to the very end. He's been waiting to say that.
Let's go to the next topic.
Wow.
Okay, so Thor, Dirty A.
So Thor, big piece of shit.
Oh, see, you okay.
No,
see, bad mouth.
It was
out comes the claws.
Yeah, so Thor. I would say Thor is a wait for it on video kind of movie. It's not terrible, but it's just not up to snuff.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm in the I'm like
a little bit more.
Than you guys.
Yeah.
I put it in 7 to 7.5 out of 10.
Okay,
it's kind of where I am on this.
I don't think we're that far off.
We're in a
not that far.
This was a weak year for, in my opinion, for superhero movies. Out of the 3 weak movies, I'm going to put it on top by like maybe a half percentage point.
Okay, so we're not. We're not that far off.
We're not that
here.
far.
I mean, because cinematically, it was a pretty.
I know Doug goes to bed hugging his Man of Steel doll every night. But,
that's not true. And actually, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
you just keep it on the nightstand.
It's a top.
No,
you don't actually hug it.
After seeing the Wolverine again, aside from those last 15 minutes, it's a good movie. I mean, it is,
but those last 15-20 minutes are so bad.
They do ruin the movie.
It does, and it's like
it's
a different movie. It's a completely different movie. It just makes me so mad.
You can't forgive that. You can't forgive that part of the movie, unfortunately.
There's a cool cut. Did you guys see the scene that's gonna be on the Bluray?
Yes.
Where they give him the uniform. I was like, that's cool. They should have left that in there.
Yeah.
And I was watching when I was watching the movie when they're about to get on the plane. I'm watching her. The guy hands her the box. I was like, oh, they should have left that in there.
What's
in the box?
What's in the box? Fans would have gone nuts.
They would have gone
been
nuts.
great.
That would have been awesome.
But then
then he had to wear it.
Then he would have to, that's the problem. Is then he would have had to wear the next one. I guarantee you.
You don't introduce the Wolverine suit in Act 1 and not put it on by the end of Act 2. God, just a little Chekhov's gun illusion there. But.
Yeah, and then he'll be back for Days of Future Past.
Which I gotta say this outside of again the comic book world.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with one thing that probably the reason why he hasn't worn that suit. I don't think a manly guy like that would ever really be comfortable in that suit. This is something I'd wear.
Yeah. Right.
It's the thing about comic movies. I think if you give it a valid reason, you can get away with a lot.
Yeah.
I don't, stuff like Hawkeye's purple uniform wasn't going to fly.
No, agree. But what I'm saying is that it's almost like they've already missed the boat on giving Wolverine that reason.
The only way they'd be able to do this is if they completely rebooted X-Men straight.
Exactly.
And then they'll want a chance to do that too.
They had a lot of sort of ceremonial armor type of stuff in the Wolverine. That could have been introduced as sort of a ceremonial armor for him to go up against. No, see, it wasn't a spandex one. It was
it was armor. It was more like Batman. It's more like Dark Knight armor.
Yeah. So you go at it like that. I think you can introduce some of these sort of wackier concepts.
And of course, they went with the correct color scheme, the orange and brown, and not the
yellow and
the
yellow.
correct color scheme.
That's a great costume.
Yeah.
His orange and brown.
Whether or not it would look
Pretty
okay
awesome.
on Hugh Jackman, I don't know.
I don't know. It was in a box, but whatever.
That's just, he's kind of a tall, lean guy. You know.
You guys are really thinking too hard about dudes' outfits. I gotta say right now, a little creeped out.
So that's the Wolverine. So you mentioned Iron Man 3, so we can segue more into the Marvel universe, and then we'll talk about comic movies in general.
Okay.
Since you trashed Man of Steel just now.
I wouldn't say I trashed it.
No,
it is trash.
Oh.
No, that goes too far.
But the Marvel movies in general, Iron Man 3, we saw that.
We did.
And that was kind of a disappointment.
It didn't feel like much of an Iron Man movie.
You're right.
It felt like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang Part 2. Not to say Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a bad movie. It's a great movie. It's a great movie, and
Doesn't
it's hilarious.
fit an Iron Man,
but it's not Iron Man. And
theology.
Yeah, when I go to an Iron Man movie, I want to see him in the Iron Man suit more than like 2 minutes.
Yeah, and literally in the third act, he does turn into the character from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because in the prison when he's captured, and there will be spoilers galore for Iron Man because you've had plenty of time to see it. Let's just say spoilers throughout from now on, basically.
The gloves are off.
The gloves are all off. So he gets captured and he's in jail, and then he gets the gauntlet, the Iron Man gauntlet, and he's like flying around and shooting people with a gun. Seems to know what he's doing. Mm-hmm. They cut to the third act and he's like, I don't know how to use a gun anymore. I'm just like, why did you turn into your character in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
He wasn't like headshotting people.
No, but he went from knowing how to use it to like, ooh, I'm holding it like with a lip wrist.
Iron Man 3, I didn't like the twist of the movie. The Manchurian, he's an actor, Mandarin. I don't
Close
care.
enough though.
I don't care. I don't care. I didn't care. I didn't like that twist. Why? It was unnecessary.
Well, I think the whole Trevor persona was unnecessary. I don't mind the twist. I actually like Killian as the Mandarin more than I liked that sort of Mandarin character they're showing.
Yeah.
But they didn't have to turn him into a slapstick.
Slapstick. Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
Then the very end I hated, like the last.
Okay.
And I'm not. Maybe if it was done better, I would be okay with it. But it's like when you throw 50 Iron Men out there to fight, it kind of takes away the fact that you have this other superhero. If you have all these robots you could build as Iron Man, what do you need this one guy for? Then all of a sudden, inexplicably, he destroys them all.
Yeah.
For no reason. And then you give Pepper superpowers, and you lost me.
Yeah, and she's also all of a sudden a kung fu master.
You lost me. Yeah.
And it's funny, I think it was Natalie Portman. She kind of took a dig at her because she, they asked her if she wanted to be an Avengers, stuff like that, and she was like, oh yeah, she goes, I'd love to be an Avengers, but there's got to be a reason for it. You can't turn me into some kung fu master. So I'm like, nice dig. I'm like Iron Man jam because I thought it was a straight dig on Gwyneth Paltrow's character.
Which oddly enough, they didn't give her a reason.
Exactly. You can't have a movie called Iron Man and have Iron Man not save the day.
Right.
Well, I mean, look at his other movies. He didn't really defeat Stain in the first movie. The second movie, he needed Rhodey's help to beat Whiplash.
I guess.
Third movie, Pepper is the one that actually kills Killian.
I agree. So I'm okay with the need for a sidekick. I mean, that's ingrained in a lot of comic book stuff. The help, the aspect of the superhero can't do it all on his own.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, you get a lot of that in sequels.
Yeah.
So the fact that Rhodey helps him out in the end, big deal. But it's just in the third movie. And it's probably going to be a while until we get another Iron Man movie, which is fine with me.
I hope so. Yeah, let's give some other stuff a chance here.
You kind of want the hero to be the one that is the catalyst for defeating the guy at the end of the movie, and he wasn't.
Didn't do anything.
He was the weakest person in that fight.
Yeah. The thing I didn't like about the twists, I didn't like. They ruined a huge opportunity because in the first movie, the guy who kidnaps him is part of an organization called the Ten Rings, which is a reference to the Mandarin.
Yeah.
And they never tied it back to that. And I was like, you could have made it look like this was like, oh, this was the big plan all along. And then they totally fucked it up.
Well, they said before the movie came out that, Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, hinted all along that they've been dropping these 10 rings references since Iron Man 1, and now boom, we're gonna get the Mandarin. And it was a missed opportunity. I think you could have had Killian be behind the whole thing with 10 rings anyway.
Exactly.
And it would have, given more weight to the Mandarin character to have the audience realize, oh my God, he's been behind everything since the beginning.
Yeah.
And that just would build up his character more.
Right. And then you would have at least one more competent villain in the Marvel Universe besides just Loki.
Besides Loki, yeah. Iron Man's never had the greatest rogues gallery.
But that's the problem with a lot of these characters that Marvel actually has the rights to use for their movies. Like I said, you lose Doctor Doom, you lose all Spider-Man's villains, you lose Magneto, Apocalypse, the X-Men villains. So it's like,
so Cap has some pretty good villains.
Yeah.
Most of them are dead.
Yeah, that's the problem. They all in World War II are all dead.
Not insurmountable.
Every Captain America movie is going to be a time travel movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, if it brings back Haley Atwell, I will not.
Oh, yeah. Woo,
anyway.
That better be the next TV show.
Yeah, really. Thor, I think, has a lot of good villains. The problem is they seem to want to bring Earth into all of the Thor movies. And that's just not going to work with a lot of these guys.
Right.
It's gonna. I think the next Thor movie has to take place off-world total.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Natalie Portman's got to make money.
Yeah, so we can't do the fish out of water thing with Natalie Portman and Asgard again.
Yeah.
You can't do the fish out of water thing with Thor on Earth again.
Take Darcy!
Right.
Don't worry, I'm sure they will.
Yeah. So I think the next one, even if it happens off camera, I think Jane has to go away. I want to see Thor and Sif sort of explore that relationship more, because I think Sif is aside from Jamie Alexander's looks.
Yeah. These are PG-13 movies, Matt.
Thank you. Yes.
Matt's created his own fan fiction right here on the Hodgepodge Podcast.
50 Shades of Sif. That's what I was going to I think she's a better fit for Thor.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing I've seen in the MCU. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, as far as Thor and Jane's relationship goes outside of just mutual attraction. What do these two people see in each other? I don't know. Natalie Portman needs a ladder to see into anything. She had a ramp for this movie. Did you know that? She had different ramps.
Really? That's funny.
Whenever she was in a scene with Hemsworth.
So they had to do that. They had to do that.
Comes up to his knees.
She's uber short.
They had to do that with James Marsden in X-Men because Famke Janssen is like 6 feet tall and he's like 5 something. So they had to put up basically an apple box and say, "You stand on this."
The cruise effect.
Yeah.
And Ratner was like, "Screw this! Kill him in the first 5 minutes."
Yeah. God, that movie's awful. No. Thank God Bryan Singer's rewriting it. Essentially.
Yeah. That movie didn't exist anymore. So anyway, I think Thor's got a good rogues gallery. I think Cap's got a good one. Iron Man, though, is just really weak.
It's all dudes in suits, basically,
Hulk,
aside from Mandarin.
Yeah, and Hulk, all of his baddies are green guys.
Yeah, they're all
variations of.
And they hinted at the leader, but who knows what another Hulk movie is going to bring?
Yeah, they seem to want to do it because Ruffalo's Hulk was really popular coming out of Avengers. So
that doesn't feel right to me, though. There's so many other things you can do. He's great, works great in the Avengers, but
he's a good supporting character.
Yeah, as a solo act, it's harder to pull.
The problem is that it wasn't Ruffalo. I mean, Ruffalo was great, but people weren't clamoring for a Bruce Banner movie. People want to see the Hulk that was in the Avengers. They want the guy that was whipping Loki around and going up against the Leviathan. And he was great in Avengers, but it's going to take $1 bajillion to make a really good Hulk movie because you're going to have Hulk on screen, at least for probably about 2/3 of it.
Yeah, and they won't do that because Hulk doesn't really talk.
Well, that's a $300 million movie.
Yeah, he's tough to do, as has been shown with 2 movies that basically don't exist or something.
I was okay with the
I liked
which one?
The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, I was okay with
I liked them both, but the only thing I didn't like about the Ang Lee Hulk movie is that the last. It's kind of like the Wolverine. The last bit, the Ang Lee Hulk movie was like a psychological drama for the first 2/3, and then the last third they turned into shitty comic book movie. And that's what they did with the Wolverine.
I didn't mind the way he tried to make it feel like a comic book. like with the.
That was cool. I like that.
But man,
why does Nick Nolte? Yeah,
why was the worst thing? And nothing against him as an actor, but it was just terrible. And then the poodles. Oh,
guess what? I'm the absorbing man for no reason.
For no reason whatsoever. Right.
That was another movie that felt like it ended, and then it, for some reason, just continued for another 20 minutes. And it was terrible. It was awful. Yeah. But I wasn't a huge fan of that Hulk anyway. I didn't need to see emo Hulk staring at himself in a lake, and then punching the reflection. It wasn't what I was hoping for out of a Hulk movie. Now the Incredible Hulk I thought was much better. The design of the Hulk in the Incredible Hulk wasn't the best. I mean, it looked like the muscle striations just kind of they're a little overboard on that one. But I think the Avengers Hulk was easily the best. The best looking. He had the most stuff to do, but he's also a supporting character, which is where he works best.
Yeah, you could almost say that about Wolverine too. I mean, in a way, Wolverine. I mean, in the comic book world, a lot of Wolverine works the best when he's with the X-Men.
Yeah.
And I love Wolverine, but I've never seen writers really get him right in the comics or in the movies for that matter, because
going off on his own.
Yeah, I mean the comic that they based this latest one off of, they could have just done it straight and it would have been perfect. It would have been a great movie.
That's what.
That's
the problem.
They had to tweak it and make it more mutants. No, you don't need more mutants.
If they had put no mutants in there other than Wolverine, it would have been a great movie.
Wolverine is a character that needs to be. He needs to have, for lack of a better word, more mundane plots where he's just like he's the only supernatural thing going on with his powers, because his powers aren't very flashy. So it's like he's not going to go fight Dr. Doom and all that shit, so he should be more street level stuff.
It's kind of like Batman. Yeah, like Nolan's Batman didn't have any. They didn't acknowledge that there was even a universe outside of a superhero universe outside of Gotham.
Right.
And that is probably a better situation for Wolverine than what we got.
Well, you brought it up, so
here it is.
Because we can talk about. We've already said Captain America. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah. Winter Soldier looks great.
Yeah. Winter Soldier looks great. Guardians of the Galaxy. The leaked footage I've seen looks good. But I want to wait to see until I see a real trailer, because that post credit scene, I was just like, ooh.
And again, I don't know any of the history behind Guardians, so it'll be just a movie to me. So
there's Guardians is something that I'm really looking forward to. I think it's the riskiest.
Oh, for sure.
Movie that Marvel has tried.
Because they could really lose the audience with that.
Yeah, it's completely different from any other stories they've been telling so far. It is whacked out. You've got a tree.
A talking
tree that only says 3 words.
Yeah.
You've got a talking raccoon.
Right.
And those are going to be your stars of the movie.
Yeah. And again, this is coming from someone who doesn't know about the comics. I think that's why it's risky, right? Because it's a lesser known. It's not one of the staples, right?
Right, and that's the other reason why.
The core fan base is like, oh, Guardians, whereas 99% of the rest of the world is going to be like, I hope it's a good movie, but it's not going to mean anything from a comic book perspective.
Honestly, a lot of comic book fans, even they're like, I don't even know that much about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, Guardians.
It's not a big comic either.
It's obscure, and Kevin Feige is the only reason this thing's getting made. I think it's one of his babies, so he's sort of the catalyst behind this whole thing. But
if they wanted to play it safer, they should have done something like Black Panther or something like that.
But, they're going to get to that stuff. Yeah, it's and that is
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
He's too old to play Black Panther.
No, he is not.
He can play T'Chaka.
He must be Black Panther.
Right, let me talk to Dirty A here. He can play Black Panther's father because he is the appropriate age for that.
I see.
Doug here would love to see him play the actual Black Panther, which is T'Challa, the son. But Guardians.
But he's got a good backstory. He was a slave for 12 years. So he's got a reason to fight.
Nice.
Yeah.
Go see 12 Years a Slave.
I haven't seen that movie because nobody wears capes. Do they wear capes?
Did they in New York? Maybe somebody wore a cape or a cloak or something like that?
Did anybody fly?
No.
Any robots?
No.
Aliens?
No. And you're going to cry.
Yeah.
Khan's in it. So that's Marvel. That's what's
Yes,
going on.
I believe we
Marvel
were
right now.
leading into.
We were leading into other comic book movies
Yeah.
because Marvel is way ahead of the pack.
Just a little bit. Just a little.
And DC is behind the curve. For those listeners
They're
who
clawing though.
for those listeners who don't know, there's basically two big comic book companies, Marvel and DC. Marvel is Spider-Man, X-Men, the characters that Marvel Studios can't use, and then DC is Batman, Superman, and the one
And
character
nobody else that anyone
and nobody else that anybody knows because nobody wants to take a
because they
chance on a
won't
Wonder Woman
make a movie about anybody else.
Aquaman.
That was a fake
That is
movie on
true.
Entourage.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Dark Knight,
Dark Knight.
Nolan, and he basically revived Batman with Batman Begins because after Batman and Robin, which destroyed comic book movies in general,
Yeah.
until X-Men came along.
Yeah. So here's the curse of Nolan.
Yeah,
The curse of Nolan is what I
and
call it.
I would kind of agree with you because his style definitely works for Batman.
It's funny, he did so much to elevate the character of Batman and just told a lot of good stories with Batman. The problem was, since he did not acknowledge that there are other heroes in that universe, he made it nearly impossible for DC to put together
Tie in anything.
a coordinated universe
Right.
of stories.
Yeah.
Because now they're going to have to start over.
Right.
Yeah.
And that means starting over with Batman too, which we've already got the Batman for the next movie, and it's a really odd choice. Not because I hate Ben Affleck with every fabric of my being,
But you do?
But I do.
Yeah.
I thought he was really good in Argo. He was really good in
Right.
Argo.
Yeah.
He was great in Good Will Hunting.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah,
So
no, I mean, he has the capabilities.
he can do it. I just think it's an odd choice to go after Batman in his
Latter years.
the sunset years.
Yes,
of Batman.
well, like you said, it's
Yeah.
almost like a reboot, but it's not because
Yeah, it's a
they're
strange
doing
decision
old
to me
Batman.
because it's like,
Yeah.
they're trying to, basically reboot the Batman franchise within the Superman franchise. And to start off with him, presumably in his 40s or maybe low 50s, it's...
No, I think it's late 30s, early 40s.
Anyway, I
well, they
mean,
described him as being tired and beaten down.
yeah, he can't. Yeah,
But if he's been doing it for 10 years,
Which,
it could be emotionally maybe.
But again,
Also.
they're trying to lead up to Justice League, right?
Right.
And
How-
no, I agree.
How's
I
that
agree.
going to work? Right.
And Cavill is what, 20, whatever?
Yeah, he's not even
28, 29. And, I don't think Wonder Woman's going to be, closer to AARP than, getting
Yeah.
out of college. So it's a weird choice.
Yeah, I agree.
It is.
To have him
And
so
when you talk
advanced.
about the Justice League, you don't think about aged Batman by
No,
any means.
it's- you don't think about the
think
Dark
about
Knight Returns.
the very
Batman.
fresh group
Right.
of superheroes. Yeah.
Right.
They're all sort of on the same
Yeah. Same level.
age level.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Nolan, he said that from the beginning, though. I mean, he said, his Batman kind of existed in a hyper reality, he called it.
Yeah.
Whereas now, with Man of Steel, they're kind of doing the DC universe on film. And yeah, I mean, I love Nolan's movies, the Dark Knight movies. I thought they were great. Even though I said I had some problems with Dark Knight Rises, I still liked it. It's my least favorite of the three, despite Anne Hathaway. Yes. Who was phenomenal as Catwoman, but it's definitely the weaker one of the three of them. The problem I have with it is that, and I did like Man of Steel. I'll preface by saying I did like Man of Steel. I can see why people had problems with it, though.
Mhm.
I liked Man of Steel, but I do hope that they do push it a little bit lighter going forward, because you can't make all the comic book movie, the DC movies, like Nolan's universe.
Well, that's the thing. Snyder definitely was taking cues from
Well,
Nolan's.
I would say Goyer.
Yeah.
Snyder,
Well, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. That's probably more fair.
Yeah. David Goyer
Writer.
was the writer.
the writer of Man of Steel.
And he co-wrote the stories for the Dark Knight movies with Nolan.
Right. And I think Jonathan Nolan needed
Jonathan Nolan, and we discussed this on the Person of Interest podcast we did a couple of weeks ago, that Jonathan Nolan co-wrote Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. And they actually wanted him to do Man of Steel.
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
But I think he was too busy with Person of Interest. Or
Maybe he just didn't want to do another Batman.
Maybe he just didn't want to do it.
Superhero.
Man, I would tend to believe it was the latter, because if they ask you to jump on a Man of Steel, I can't believe you'd be like, no, I'm busy, a person of interest.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Some writers are scared of writing Superman.
I think they would have been scared off because of the success of the Batman trilogy. Anyway, because the expectations, and we talk about expectations again, are going to be super high.
Yeah.
For any Superman movie.
But if anyone can do it, though.
Yeah.
But I didn't love the choice of Zack Snyder as director, but I feel like I knew it was going to look good, and I knew the action was going to be good. My biggest fear with his movies is the writing. His storytelling is not always the greatest. Sometimes he gets it right, and sometimes he doesn't. When he has basically a storyboard in front of him, which is a comic book, he does really well, because the Watchmen was almost shot for shot what was in the book.
Right.
Same with 300. That was another one where it was like, I went back and read 300 after I saw the movie, and I was like, oh my god, this is the storyboard for the movie.
Yeah.
But for Man of Steel, he doesn't
have that,
really
because that's a story that never existed, basically.
And, visually, I thought Man of Steel was really good looking, and not Cavill, although I'm sure he's a handsome man.
He's dreamy. Shut up.
He needs help in the writing department, and Goyer, for as much as he did with the Batman stuff, he needs somebody else.
He does
with him, and he needs somebody.
Goyer by himself
temper his style a little bit.
Yeah, he needs somebody to sort of rein him in a little bit, because the Superman is always going to be an illusion, like a Christ figure.
Yeah, the most iconic of any American
superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did we really need a shot of Jesus Christ over his shoulder in the movie?
When he went to the church.
He goes to the church, and for like 30 seconds, Jesus is right over his shoulder.
I didn't. It's like, I didn't even mention that.
Okay,
I don't know.
Let's just hold up a sign next time. And then when Jor-El's like, you can save them all, and then he falls out of the ship with his arms.
With his arms, the cross. The cross pose.
They did that. They did that in Superman Returns.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. They use that.
And it was no less.
They always.
Yeah.
That's just a cinematic.
In that. Yeah. But I thought there was some dialogue issues in Man of Steel. Kind of cringed at some of the lines.
Mm-hmm.
That's a situation where I think somebody needs to come in and help Goyer, because his dialogue is not the best. He makes some wrong choices, I think, along the way, and he needs somebody to sort of rein him in.
The thing I liked most about Man of Steel, and I know the biggest problem people had was with it. I mean, aside from
Superman, it was
from what he did at the end. With Zod, a lot of people had a problem with that. Personally, I didn't, but
he was a real life Superman versus the comic book Superman.
Exactly, but the other problem is that people had was all the destruction and stuff like that. Now Snyder, apparently, they just had a Q&A thing about the DVD coming out. I think actually comes out tomorrow. And they just had a Q&A thing.
Available in stores tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. And he said that is going to play into the next one.
But see, that's a problem. I think you don't wait until the second movie to talk about...
Introduce his problem.
The major problem that you have just introduced at the end of your first movie. It's and I talk about this all the time, and people jump down my throat about, it's realistic destruction, and that's exactly what would happen when two gods fight. I don't disagree. I think that is exactly what would happen when two gods would fight. My problem is that nobody acknowledges it in the movie. And now they have said after the fact, we're going to deal with the aftermath.
Because I think that's how Batman gets involved.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
And, that's great. That's fine.
Yeah.
You can still have that by, and still acknowledge it in the first movie.
No, that's a fair point.
And it's like... other people would point out, well, look what happens in Avengers. Shit gets wrecked in Avengers.
The whole city's destroyed, and then
you didn't have a problem with that. So so you're biased. And I'm like, no. The reason that Avengers worked for me is because there was literally like a 30-second scene where Hawkeye, Black Widow, Cap were trying to get people away. They were trying to save people.
Right.
I didn't see any of that in Man of Steel. It's not like he looked around and going, "Oh my God, I just punched this guy into a building and the entire skyscraper fell."
Right.
Maybe I need to.
Maybe we should get out of here.
Yeah, but let's talk about the desert or something.
Zod could have stopped him. Zod could. It should have been the villain that kept him there, killing.
That's a fair point. They probably should have added at least one line of dialogue to just say.
That's all it would take, and then I think a lot of people's problem with the movie. It would go away.
My problem with these movies is not enough death. You don't ever show the people getting killed.
I want somebody decapitated on camera.
You just make this assumption that the whole city's destroyed, but apparently everyone in it was safe.
Yeah.
I mean,
The only person he saved was Lois.
Right.
I mean, I can see the issue with that.
And it wasn't from reversing the spin.
No, but it should have been.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's falling. Let me reverse the polarity of.
That's another thing. We'll talk about that in a second. But the thing with Man of Steel, I think the reason why I didn't have as much of a problem with it is because I approached it as Superman Begins, where Superman is not, like, he doesn't even know the limits of his power. He doesn't know so he's still learning as he goes. That's kind of the way I approach it.
Well, see, that's fine, but all it would take is one building getting knocked down.
Which is what you said. After one time, you'd be like, oh, wait, I need to...
being a rookie is one thing. Not knowing that you're going to knock down a skyscraper when you punch the sky is one thing. After you see it one time, the rookie excuse goes out the window. Now, you're just... it's Snyder playing with his favorite action figures.
Matt, it's the greater good, buddy. It's the greater good, man.
Right. He did save South America from the tentacle creature, I guess. Which is great. Good job.
The thing I really did like about Man of Steel, though, is I like the way that they approached Superman growing up and stuff like that, and how he, when he was a little kid in the school, learning about his powers and how it was freaking him out and stuff like that. I liked how they did that. I liked how.
By the way, Kevin Costner, worst on-screen father.
That's
worst.
Right. Yeah.
He is the worst individual. He's awful. What an awful human being.
Yeah.
That's where should I let all those kids die, Dad?
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
I guess so. Maybe.
Let's
think about this. Maybe.
I like that. But that was shitty.
Yeah.
It was just like, maybe you should have. Like, what?
Oh, okay.
But, I like the even, not even that, but the whole David Banner approach to him.
Yeah.
That part I liked.
To him going through life, just kind of a nomad roaming, helping from city to city.
I did.
Yeah, he even got the lonely backpack on at the end. I like that. Yeah.
No, I do like the way they presented Clark in this. I'm kind of glad that in the beginning they didn't do the.
And then he becomes crutchy.
Yeah. He hides from people by putting on glasses.
You're crutchy, aren't you?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is great. This is a really cool way to introduce the Clark character in modern times.
Right.
And then they destroyed that at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I mean...
Well, he showed up at the... I mean, yeah, Lois knew who he was, but everybody else was
like... That's the only...
guy.
But I liked it that she knew who he was and stuff like that. I liked how they did that, because it makes more sense that way.
But why is she the only person that can see?
Well, because, I mean, when he's fighting dudes, they can't... He's farther away from that. I mean, he's not right up to them going, hello.
Well, it's not like they evacuated Metropolis. There's 1,000 people filming this fight.
They were busy trying to get out of the rubble.
To me, they, at least with one of the characters that showed up a couple times from when he was a kid, it alluded to the fact that he did know who he was,
right?
And that they never went anywhere with it, but they did allude to the fact that there are people out there that may know who he is.
And they did the same thing with Batman. I mean, they did the same thing with Dark Knight. I mean, you can't do it like the comic book where only Alfred knows and that's it. Like Lucius figured it out. He's like, don't treat me like I'm an idiot.
Well, and with Superman, it's a lot different because when the way his alter ego was written was just take off glasses, put them on. I mean, what are you going to do? His face is there, so you can't. There's no real good way to approach people either knowing who he is or not knowing who.
Well, he's going to work for a newspaper, so he will live in obscurity. Burn. Newspaper jail.
Yeah.
So, but
paper jail.
You mentioned the Superman the movie when he flew backwards. One thing I never understood about that whole bit when they did that, didn't he undo all the good stuff he did when he wasn't saving Lois? So didn't the dam burst and kill all the people? And so I never understood how that worked.
Yeah, well, you're not meant to understand
the greater good, Doug. The great.
Lois Lane was saved and all those other people died.
Just accept it, okay?
Well,
flew backwards.
So that you're okay with, but the fact that you can actually reverse the axis of the world and reverse it, everything
and time goes backwards.
That's
no. What I'm saying is that's stupid too. What I'm saying is, how does that even help? Because you saved her, but now you undid all that other stuff you did.
Well, wasn't that sort of They just threw that in after the movie had already been
filmed? No. Actually, to be honest, that was actually supposed to be at the end of Superman 2.
Oh, you're right. That's what it was. Okay.
And then when Richard Donner got fired, they tacked it on the end of Superman 1.
Yeah.
But that was supposed to be the end of Superman 2.
Well,
either way, it was tacked on. Yeah.
Either way, it was a stupid ending.
It's a dumb idea either way.
Yeah.
But DC, they're kind of screwed. But they're trying to go more television. I mean, they've got Arrow, which is a modest success for
It's
them.
decent.
It's a good,
for
it's a good show.
CW, for God's sake. It's a decent show.
And they're actually going to bring Flash into that.
I'm waiting
from
for
there.
that. They haven't yet.
So I mean, I feel bad.
Is it going to be like not really Flash, kind of like Smallville?
We
It's
don't
not
know yet.
really-
We don't know yet.
It's
We don't
not
know
yet.
yet.
Like right now, they've brought in some people like
They brought in
Black
Black
Canary.
Canary, and Huntress.
Shot.
Yeah, Huntress.
Who's the guy?
Deadshot.
And now they're
Deathstroke, I think was
now
on.
they're
Deathstroke's in it. Yeah.
now they're bringing the Ra's al Ghul and League of or they call it the
League of
League of Assassins,
which is what it is in the comic.
into the universe. So yeah.
So I mean, I would hope. I mean, if and when they do Justice League, I would feel so bad for what's his name, Stephen Amell. I would feel so bad for him if he's not in the Justice League.
Sorry,
He's
pal.
like, I'm a springboard for all this shit now. Come on, man. So it's like,
and he's fun.
he's good. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
him. It's all.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about the Nolan thing affecting the formation of a DCU.
Right.
One other thing that I think they need is they need a Kevin Feige.
I totally.
They
agree
don't
with that.
have one
definitely,
right now.
and that's why Nolan got to do whatever he wanted because there was nobody at Warner Brothers. There's no synergy between Warner Brothers and DC. There's none.
No.
Marvel was like their own thing.
Well,
now they're owned by Disney, but Disney's like do your own thing.
Now they're trying now.
No, not really, because they still don't have a czar.
They have
of
a woman who's in charge of.
That's
DC
what I mean.
Entertainment.
That's what I mean. They're trying to. It's not there, but they're trying to get a cohesion to where the groups are talking, and they're gonna.
But there's still two people.
They're way behind. They're way behind.
Yeah, like Marvel is its own separate entity from Disney.
Right.
Disney collects checks from all the movies that they
Right.
make, but they're not going to tell them this is what you're going to do with the MCU.
Yeah, because if Disney was involved, I got to be honest, they probably wouldn't be doing Guardians of the Galaxy.
No,
because then they'd also be like, we have Star Wars over here. We don't need this movie.
Yeah.
So
thanks anyway.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Whereas on the DC side, they're going to need somebody
They definitely
who can keep track of all of these movies.
They wanted Nolan to do that. He was like, I got movies to make, man.
Yeah. I don't think the fantasy elements of superhero stories interest him.
No, it doesn't, because he's always said that Batman Batman interests him more than anything else.
Yeah, well, and that's because he's the more grounded of all of them. Right? And it works in his world of how he likes to process stuff.
I mean, honestly, they would never do this because he's always been a charter member of the Justice League. But honestly, if they're going to do Justice League, Batman shouldn't even be in it because Batman could get killed by anything the Justice League fights.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, so it's like,
it's exactly like
he's
the
badass.
The parody.
The Pete Holmes parody.
There's nothing super about him. He's just rich and nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Rich and nuts.
He fills the badass normal character.
Exactly. Right.
Like there's a couple badass normals on Justice League. There's a couple badass normals on Avengers.
Right. That's true.
So you got Black Widow and Hawkeye.
Except Black Widow and Hawkeye are the most popular characters.
It's funny. It's funny because it's true because that's what he has as the image.
Right.
He's perfect as the Dark Knight. This badass regular dude basically who puts on a. Regular dude who puts on a bat suit, right?
Like you do,
right? Like one would.
Everybody's got some sort of.
But everyone else. You're right. In the universe of Justice League, what can he really do? But to be fair, that he is in the Justice League, so
yeah.
But if you look at the old Justice League cartoons, some of the best episodes were the ones where the point at the ending was that Batman can contribute to the team.
Right.
He is the one.
Yeah.
Right. He earned his spot in a couple episodes.
Yeah. And a lot of it's because
it is
his thought.
A lot of it is the
thinks.
detective part of Batman.
But as we saw with Green Lantern, they kind of ignore the cartoons a lot, and they just do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. The Green Lantern was such a.
Personally, I still love the 1966 Batman, whatever it was.
Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
Get the shark spray out.
I loved it when I was 5.
One of my
favorite
favorite
North Carolina
moments.
Comic-Con this weekend.
I bet they did. One of my favorite moments from the old Batman shows was when Batman showed up somewhere and the person he was looking for had been kidnapped, and there was a bowl of alphabet soup sitting on the table, and he took it and poured it into the bat thermos which he had on his utility belt.
As he would.
He called it the bat thermos.
Right.
So he pours it in the bat thermos and then takes it back to the bat computer and pours it into the bat computer. And then the bat computer computes and decides, the person left a message by taking out the alphabet soup by taking out some of the letters and they're going to be at like 456 Glendale Boulevard.
Oh my God!
that to me is the 60s Batman show in a nutshell. It was so incredibly campy.
Well, it's true. It's true. I mean, it is extremely campy.
As much as I love the Nolan movies, and I think he totally nailed it with Batman, although, like you said, it doesn't really leave room to expand upon the universe. And they were even running out of villains as far as Batman goes.
They basically had the Riddler, and that was about it.
Yeah, but to me, the definitive Batman is the animated series Batman. I mean, that is...
Yep.
I mean, from Kevin Conroy doing the voice, Mark Hamill doing the Joker. I mean, that's the definitive.
It's funny.
The old animated series from the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it. I never watched it.
You never watched it? Oh my God, you gotta watch it.
It's
so good.
Bruce Timm would be the guy that needs to
honestly, I want to
see
see
Feige.
Or Paul Dini.
I would give anything to see Clayface.
Clayface was great, and that's the thing about the cartoon is like they took characters like Mr. Freeze and Clayface who were kind of dumb in the comic books, and they basically revitalized them.
With CGI today, I think Clayface would be
would be great.
So you couldn't do Clayface in Nolan's world.
No,
not Nolan's world.
Now,
just in general, a Batman movie with not Nolan's Batman. Batman movie.
The other reason they may have done the whole, Batman's older than Superman, older than these guys. The other reason why they may have done that as well is just so they could get away with not doing another Batman origin movie. They just say, he's here.
Right.
Here's Commissioner Gordon. He's
this
guy. It's good. Just make
that's fine. I think though it's a mistake to
Still
go with the older Batman. It's
a reboot is a reboot.
Short-sighted, I think, because you're not setting yourself up for what Marvel has set themselves up for.
That's true.
The cinematic
That's
universe.
true.
It's those stories
hello,
on
Bat Grandpa.
Yeah.
Well, no, what they would probably do is when Ben Affleck is... I mean, I'm sure, I don't know how many movies he's going to do as Batman, but when he's done with it, they'll probably just cast somebody else who is in his age. They'll treat it like the comic books where he's 35 or 40 forever.
It's short-sighted for sure, but yeah, they know that with the franchise, they can reboot it as many times as they want, and people...
Not even reboot it, just recast him, because that's what they're going to have to do with Iron Man. They're going to have to recast him.
But if you cast Ben Affleck with someone 15 years younger...
No, they won't. They'll cast somebody who is his age now later on to continue being Batman.
Yeah, okay.
But then you're starting with a Batman character who has bypassed most of his interesting arcs. I mean, you're pretty much left with The Dark Knight Rises as like a... or Dark Knight Returns as a Batman story for him.
Hey, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I kind of understand the reason why they did it, but I'm not saying it was the greatest idea.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake when you're trying to build a universe that's going to last for years and years and years.
I think their thought process was more to the effect of, we need to shake it up and do something different.
Yeah, see, in a lot of ways, they're behind the eight ball in trying to catch up with Marvel in a lot of ways, and this is one of them. They're hamstrung by Batman. They don't have somebody like a Kevin Feige, and they don't have a company structure that sort of allows them to...
Right. So you just see a bunch of people, running around at Warner just...
Yeah. Right. They saw $1.5 billion from Avengers, and they're like, oh my God, we want some of that action.
Yeah.
And
so what can we do?
Yeah. What can we do?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's start with Justice League almost right off the bat, and then shoot out their soul.
Honestly, though, Justice League, that might have been an interesting way to go if they just had Justice League right off the bat and then branch out from there.
They should have done something a little different.
Because it would have been
than Marvel's thing. They don't have to do individual movies that lead up to that. Pull it together. The problem is you can't introduce the backstory of every character in a Justice League movie, right? It's too much.
Yeah.
So you could just...
I'm not saying you'd have to, right? But you could
just briefly touch on how they got their powers.
But you do a Justice League movie, and then from there you branch off into their individual selves. Yeah. And I think that would have been fun.
I don't know. If it were me, I would...
but it's not you.
It's not me, but if it were me... I'm not saying I'm applying for the job.
Right.
But here's my phone number. No, I think everybody knows the origin of Superman. Everybody knows the origin of Batman. So forget that in a Justice League movie and let them just be characters in it and follow, or let the sort of main antagonist of the movie come from Wonder Woman's world. Actually, just Wonder Woman's world, because Flash's villains are terrible.
Yeah, they are.
Let it come from her world, since that seems to be the big hang-up. Is like, how do we introduce Wonder Woman? That crappy pilot that they put out.
Yeah, oh my God.
Where she's like the CEO of an underwear company.
And Aquaman's world.
The sad part is about Wonder Woman is that they do those porno parodies.
Yeah.
the Wonder Woman costume that
I
they
don't
had
know what
for
you're talking about, though.
the Wonder Woman costume that they had for that was infinitely better than what they did for that failed pilot. I mean, it was like, she looked like Wonder Woman.
Well, she looked like a cosplayer, and a really bad one.
Yeah.
It was like, here's some red leather, some blue leather, and a star.
It was awful.
Let's go running through the streets. It was a terrible.
Something about that they're missing the point of Wonder Woman, right? When they're trying to create this, they're just trying to.
It's the fantasy.
Yes. People, of course, you want a beautiful woman, scantily clad to a point, playing Wonder Woman, but that's not what it's about, right? And it's like that's all they're going for.
Well, that's a costume that would need some serious updating. And Jim Lee tried with New 52, and I think it's better. But
I think it was before New 52.
They did. Well,
he had like the jacket and the pants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they did New 52, and he had to redesign something again.
That, it was pretty much the exact same costume. Yeah. But more so than that, I think it's the fantasy elements that are keeping them from doing a Wonder Woman movie, and I think that's a shame.
They keep trying to make her grounded here on Earth.
Yeah, I think that's a problem.
It's the same thing with Thor,
right? She's not from this world, so why are you trying to create her?
Well, see, she ties into Greek mythology so much that it's like Thor. They think they can get away with because it's Viking mythology, Norse gods, but nobody here knows about that because we don't pay attention to anything outside of our boundaries. So that they felt like they could play with a little bit more. It's more of a sci-fi thing. It's like they're not gods. They're just advanced
aliens. Yeah.
But you can't do that. Wait, maybe you can. I don't know. But with Wonder Woman, it's different. It's like Ares is in this movie. Okay, that's a Greek god. So that's where we're going.
That's the thing that's so funny though, is because I mentioned the Batman animated series, and you mentioned Justice League, and that is one place where DC does beat Marvel. I think the cartoons are amazing, and the direct.
Well, the Justice League cartoons are amazing,
right?
And
the direct,
some of their
direct-to-video movies are
are
pretty good too. They're really good. I mean, they just did the adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns, which was excellent. But although I have to say, I'm not sure if I agree with them just recycling these comic books, and just making movies. I think they should come up with more original
it's better
stuff,
than Marvel's animated comic books that they have on Netflix.
But they've got the huge tank to pull from.
Yeah,
they're going to go to it as long as
that's true.
Making money. I mean,
that's true.
They're just yes, it's finite, but in the realm of making movies, I mean, it just seems infinite of the stories and characters you can pull from.
Yeah.
But yet they keep going back to the same ones instead of being risky.
Yeah. But one thing we didn't touch on real quick, other TV stuff, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
And also Marvel just announced a big deal with Netflix.
Yeah.
That they're going to do 4 new series starting in 2015, starting with Daredevil.
Yep.
And Iron Fist,
Luke
Cage, and Jessica Jones, who was... what was her character's name when she was a superhero? I can't remember.
Oh, God.
She was... Well, anyway...
You're not thinking about Jessica Drew, which
No.
Spider-Woman.
She was a member of the Avengers, Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
But anyway, she her comic book was Alias that Brian Bendis did, and that's really what brought her back into prominence. Yeah. And then they're going to do the Defenders.
Yeah, those 4 series will culminate in a mini series called the Defenders.
Right. So, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
Premiered, and it was
It did.
Okay, but it's the problem is the characters. Aside from Clark Gregg, who's
and if
great,
you're gonna have a problem, that's a pretty big problem.
Yeah, it is, and especially in a TV show.
Yes.
Clark Gregg is back as Coulson from the Marvel movies, and he's great. But aside from him and the British chick, and Simmons and Ming-Na is Agent May. I like her, but other than that, the other 3 characters I.
But even like, I mean, it's still just like if one of them weren't to show up tomorrow, it'd be replaced by someone.
No, exactly.
You'd be like, okay, well, whatever. Yeah. So, and it is new, and yes, it takes time to develop, but it's not terrible. It's not a terrible show by any means.
Yeah, I have this argument with people all the time. When I tell them my opinion on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm like, it didn't grab me at all. The latest couple of episodes, or actually just the last episode, I thought was a step in the right direction. I
agree. Yeah,
it was much better. But my point when I'm talking to these people is that it shouldn't take 5 episodes for me to start liking your show.
Yep.
This is, it's 2013. There's 6 jillion forms of entertainment.
This is the day, this is the day and age where after one show it gets canceled.
Yeah. So people, it's like you can criticize and say, yeah, you want instant gratification. No, I don't. It's just like writing. Like when I write my stuff, I don't say, oh, I'm going to wait, 5 or 6 chapters before this story really gets going.
Right.
You don't have that luxury.
Yep.
You have to grab people within the first chapter.
Right.
Otherwise, you're toast.
Yep.
And I would say deservedly so. It's, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's centered around Agent Coulson, which I have my own problems with Coulson being back anyway. It doesn't, to me, it almost doesn't matter why.
I don't care either.
This is one of the things that bother me the most about comics and in the comics world. This is it's heresy to bring this kind of stuff up, but it's true. I think a lot of these characters just need to die.
Yeah.
I think Spider-Man needs to go away. I think Batman needs to die. I think.
Well, hey, they do that. They just then.
But then they bring him back.
Just find a way to bring him back.
Captain America. At the end of the Civil War arc, it was like he's shot and killed.
Right.
It was on the national news.
It was. Yeah.
And then
6 months later, he's back.
So they killed
that.
I'm not saying he's the one that needed to go, but they killed Superman, and then.
Yeah, right. And when you do that, you relieve all tension from all future stories.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I will never. Once you do that to me once, I will never believe that anyone is dead on your show.
That's part of the reason why I don't read X-Men anymore, because every 2 years somebody else is like, hey, now I'm Phoenix, and it's just like the best Phoenix storyline was the one that ended in 1983. Don't bring it back again.
Yeah,
come up with other stuff.
Right. It's like, it's we didn't talk so much about the reason that he includes. He has this reputation of killing off his characters.
Right.
Which I don't think is really well deserved. Even though characters in his stories do die, they, there's a reason for it.
It's organic, right?
It's right as far as the story goes. It feels natural. It's like in a situation like the Avengers, somebody's going to die, and that's great. That gives weight to the story. Yeah. And when
my money's on Hawkeye,
I wouldn't make that call. And I think Whedon feels bad about how Hawkeye came off in the first movie,
right?
And he's already mentioned, he's got a lot more.
You mean he was a bad guy in the whole?
Yeah.
But I liked when they did that.
Because, mindless bad guy.
Yeah. No, but I liked how they did that because that was kind of a nod to his origin, because he was a villain to begin with, wasn't he?
Well, they thought he was.
Okay.
Yeah. He was in prison, I want to say.
I forget.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know, but. It was more kind of like a Robin Hood type deal. He was never really a villain.
Okay.
He was in prison for something, and
so he is Green Arrow,
right? He's Green Arrow. No, but then all that stuff, all the dramatic weight, that feeling of tension. When you bring that character back, I don't care if he's an LMD. I don't care if he's a clone. I don't care if this entire show takes place inside of his head.
Ooh, that'd be neat.
It's a sign elsewhere.
It's a snow globe.
Yeah, he keeps talking about being in a magical place. I think he went to Asgard.
No, that's Tahiti.
Right. Yeah, the code name Tahiti is Asgard. But to me, it doesn't matter because you've now robbed any future death
of having its importance.
Yeah, and I kind of felt like that was the case in Thor 2. But we won't go into that. But because I mentioned that to you, I was like, why didn't they just use the thingy then?
Well, I thought we're spoiling, right? Or we're just gonna stay away from that.
I mean, we don't have to. I mean,
I will say what, but I that death. Yeah, there's almost the same thing there with like, oh great, now that I'm never going to believe anybody's dead in this universe. But at least it makes somewhat more sense than.
No, you're right. It's extremely valid point. Yeah,
but there is that one death in the beginning. That person's dead, staying dead.
Oh right.
Which I thought we didn't get to talk about this in the first part, but the funeral scene, even seeing it a second time, was outstanding. It was so well done. I think in the Dark World, it was beautifully shot.
Right.
It was a little weird that everybody was in their ceremonial dress, but Thor didn't wear his helmet.
Yes, where is the helmet?
Disrespectful. Disrespect,
Jen.
Yeah. But the Coulson thing, I know there's supposed to be this big mystery about, that they're going to reveal at the end of the first season.
Obviously that's the big.
That's supposed to be what the carrot that carries you through.
And it's not.
do not care.
It's not enough.
And if I don't care about that, I'm not gonna care. I'm certainly not gonna care about Sky and her.
Oh God.
Her ragtag team of
whatever they are, right? And you know, they spent the first 2 episodes just figuring out ways to throw in little winks to the Marvel universe, right?
Yeah.
That's how they were going to try to hook you in. Hey, we're going to mention Thor. Wink, wink.
So they did it well once when they said, Coulson said something about that. They were like, "What's an 08-4?"
Stars.
And he was like, "Well, the last time we had an 08-4, that involved a hammer."
The hammer.
That is a perfect way to
Right.
sort of allude, say, "Oh, hey, we're still in the MCU." But then the other crap that they talk about, it's
I mean,
forced.
I did like in the first one when they mentioned Extremis. I did like that because he was just like Extremis. It's new, and and so that puts you in the timeline. Okay, this comes after Iron Man 3.
Well, obviously, the stuff. Obviously, it's got to be mentioned because you're in that universe,
right?
It
should be natural. It shouldn't be forced. And too many times on that show it's forced. And going back to Coulson, I love the Coulson character. I love Clark Gregg. I think he's a fantastic actor.
Great,
And I think Whedon writes him really well, even though Joss Whedon only wrote the first episode. His brother Jed and his wife have been writing the rest.
Thanks, Josh, for giving Jed some...
Way to go, Joss. I don't think Coulson by himself is a very strong lead character.
Yeah. Right.
He was great in Avengers because he was a supporting character.
You're right.
And Fury was the sort of...
Well, I mean, one of my friends basically said, how do you make a S.H.I.E.L.D. show without Nick Fury in it? And, that kind of is playing into what you're saying here. You need Nick Fury.
He is
Unfortunately, you cast one of the biggest movie stars in the world, Nick Fury, and he's not going to do a TV show,
Right.
So...
See, you can't do one if it's like... this is another... They chose to do a really high-level S.H.I.E.L.D. team.
Right.
Level 7. Nobody knows... I didn't even know there was a level 7. I think if you're going to have somebody like Coulson in it who is not a strong lead... maybe this should be like a beginning group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and not some elite...
Not the best of the best, but
like travel around in a plane because we're so special. The bus.
Yeah.
It's just... It's kind of a weird choice. I think.
Yeah.
And Sky is awful. She's so awful.
Yeah.
And Fitz and Simmons, I don't hate them as much as some people. I think they've gotten better as
they've
gone along. Yeah. Fitz, I think, is growing on me a little bit. I couldn't stand Fitz in the episodes, but Simmons has always been okay, I thought. I think she's,
Yeah, she is.
Doug's like,
yes, she is.
Ward,
he's just generic.
He's this piece of paper right here.
Right. One side.
See, here's the thing is, I know they're trying to go for these are like regular dudes in the Marvel Universe. I almost feel like they should take that guy Ward and replace him with someone who has powers.
How about J. August Richards? I mean, that's the guy you introduced in the pilot, and we never saw him again. They knocked him out and put him in a tank and said goodbye. Yeah, I know they don't want to bring... They said they don't want to make this into a show about superheroes. And
you have to make it... You have to. I mean, because these characters are boring. Nobody cares
about
S.H.I.E.L.D.
for God's sake. I mean, it's fine that you want to keep it grounded.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still within this universe of superpowers and superheroes, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean they
and I'm not all about. I don't want superheroes abound by any means.
No,
but I don't know if you're gonna be in that world and you're claiming to be S.H.I.E.L.D. Well, guess what?
Yeah,
you can't get away from it.
Yeah, either that or go the super spy route that S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well,
was
that's the way I
originally.
thought they were going to do it. I thought they were going to do the sort of
CIA
S.H.I.E.L.D.
type of
versus
spy.
Hydra or S.H.I.E.L.D. versus...
Oh, right.
Like the Jim Steranko
stuff.
stuff.
The old S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff. I mean, I think there's a bigger well of stories there that you can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Versus, what's the 911 call this week, Clark?
Yeah.
Let's go investigate some X-Files.
Yeah.
Type of stuff. There's...
They made that show.
Not a lot you can... Yeah, they made the X-Files.
It was better.
It was great.
Yeah. The Monster of the Week thing can only last for so long.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they've got him going up against Graviton. Well, they sort of show...
the creation of...
They show the creation of Graviton. Graviton's a beast.
Yeah.
If he, and they
you're going to have these 4 people that
what's
are nobodies.
What's Sky going to do? Look up something on Instagram on how to beat Graviton.
Right.
Let me check my Graviton tag on Instagram. Oh, look at that. That was what I can't roll my eyes any further in the back of my head than I did when the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were like, oh my God, something just happened on this train. We'll never know. And then she's like, oh yes we will. And then she pulls out Instagram. And I'm just like, God,
wow,
this is a worldwide
Yeah.
spy agency.
And they're using social media.
And she's using
As
Instagram to solve the crime,
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's the most you can do to justify Skye being on the team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, she's useless.
Yeah.
They should have just made it... Because it's weird, because they made it like her and Ward are both kind of like point of view characters. They should have just made Ward...
I assumed Ward was going to be the point of view character based on the pilot. And then they brought in Skye.
And like you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation here, the problem is this show has potential still. But the problem is to say that 5-6 episodes in.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't 5 episodes in say this still has potential.
Yeah.
It needs to have already landed.
It needs it. I'm hoping that maybe they'll do something before they go on
I'm
hiatus.
not going to stop watching anytime soon.
No, I'll watch it just because I'm a sucker, and this is like right in my wheelhouse, so I'll keep watching it. But
because you got to see which Avengers going to show up.
It's not terrible.
Because one of them,
it's going to be.
It's not terrible.
It's going to be
by
Chris
any
Evans.
means.
It's harmless.
It's just at the end of every episode, you're just like, meh.
It's, it's 8 p.m. on a Tuesday night on NBC.
That's the other problem with it.
It's a family show.
That's the other. I mean,
the fact
for people like us,
it's a family show.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we mentioned it when we did our TV thing. There was an episode where I think it was one where they kidnapped them or they hijacked a plane. The Peruvians hijacked a plane, and I'm just like, this guy should be snapping necks, but it's on at 8 p.m. on ABC, which is owned by Disney. Can't do that.
Well, I had one of my favorite moments in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. so far when the side of the plane gets blown out.
Okay. Same episode.
And then they seal it
with the raft. Like that wouldn't get completely blown out.
Raft. Like that's going to hold them.
Right, like that's going to hold a plane together.
Yeah. You know who they need on that team? John Reese. That's what they need on that team from Person of Interest.
Never seen it.
Oh, God.
Oh,
it's a great show.
Wow.
It's a great show. You should definitely check it out.
It's kind of like the good version of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, it's almost, it's like he's like going like killing people and shit. He's like, well, you just have to kill yourself then, and walks away, So there you go. So that's Marvel. That's the Marvel Universe and comic book movies in general. They're
here to stay.
They are here to stay. A lot of people think that it's going to die out. It's not, because superheroes are our modern myths. And,
the thing is, you can call it a fad if you like, but the problem is, comic books and superheroes have been around since.
Batman's going to be 75 next year.
75, but even before that, I mean, it's been around forever, and now they're finally starting to catch fire on the big screen media
because they can finally make the movies.
But they're not. They've been around forever, and they're going to stay.
Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, it is our modern mythology.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the whole reason I got into this,
which by the way, favorite movie is Unbreakable.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah,
good movie. And the whole reason I write, well, for those that don't know, I write superhero fiction, but it's not like the capes and spandex type of superhero fiction. It's I love mythology, and I love the superhero mythology, and I love connected universes. And so in the stuff, everything that I do, there's going to be a connecting thread to the rest of the universe, the greater universe as a whole. Mm-hmm. In the Circle War series that I'm writing right now, that's going to be the case. It's actually going to seed, as many stories as I want from here on out, essentially.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's why...
So you're creating your own universe here.
Yeah, I'm creating my own sort of MCU. And this is the reason I like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's because as a fan of mythology, I love these connected stories, like the Dark Tower series for Stephen King. Part of the reason I love it so much is because there are ties from all of his seemingly unconnected stories. There's always at least a little bit of a hint from something that involves the Dark Tower. Mm-hmm. And that's what made the entire Dark Tower series so great for me, is because it was like this culmination of all of King's writings. Mm-hmm. Was this Dark Tower series, and everything he writes has a tie-in to it. It doesn't have to be blatant, but there's just something that I can say as a reader. I'm going, oh, look at that.
Find your little Easter egg.
I found my little Easter egg, and that's how this ties into something, way over on the other side of the universe. It was always really neat to me. So that's why I like the Marvel universe, is because it is a sort of a teaming up of all these sort of individual stories. Mm-hmm. And I love that. And, I haven't been as into the DC side of things, I think, because they don't acknowledge these other universes exist within each superhero universe.
Right. The only interconnected movies are the Nolan movies, the Dark Knight Nolan movies, and that's it.
But they're now their own separate universe, and nothing can touch them. And nothing can tie into them.
Thank God.
Yeah. Right.
Stay out of here, Green Lantern.
A good thing.
So, when I heard that they were, even if I didn't agree with how they're doing it, the fact that they are doing a universe where, Superman and Batman exist, it doesn't matter to me that they chose the worst title possible.
Oh, yeah, Batman versus Superman.
Yeah,
Batman versus Superman.
Generic. God.
So please, God, change that title.
Yeah.
But, you know what,
I was hoping that was just a working title.
I'm excited for the DC Universe to finally start tying together.
I mean, if you believe a lot of the rumors that are coming out, this Batman Superman movie might end up being like the proto Justice League.
Maybe.
I mean,
yeah, they're talking about cameos from lots of different DC heroes.
Yeah.
But
I mean, to me though, I mean, it's interesting that they're going that route with that film, but I think it also kind of gives Superman the short shrift.
It does.
I mean, because it's like, he's like, hey, come on.
Yeah, it's like what movie wasn't that bad? I deserve a sequel. Damn
I mean,
it.
it's like he does. I mean, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, even for those who don't like it, I mean, it wasn't fucking Quest for Peace, for God's sake.
No.
Or Superman 3.
Yeah, it wasn't, Atomic Man or Nuclear Man from...
Nuclear Man.
Nuclear Man.
Oh, my God.
Or Brandon Routh.
Yeah. Oh, poor guy.
He got shit on. That was not his fault.
It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault.
It wasn't Ryan Reynolds' fault, the Green Lantern.
It wasn't Ryan Reynolds' fault. It wasn't his fault. And who was it that...
It wasn't George Clooney's fault that Batman...
Well,
I'm just kidding. It actually kind of was.
In Hulk, who was it? His name's escaping me.
Banner.
It wasn't his fault.
No, you're right. No, you're right.
These aren't characters.
It was
his faults. Yeah.
It wasn't.
No, yeah, that was Superman Returns is 100% Singer's fault.
Yeah,
that was Bryan Singer's love.
But the person, the face people see on the screen is what's going to matter.
It's unfortunate that he was not back as Superman, and I understand that they
they got to distance themselves. Yeah,
they wanted to distance themselves.
I do like Cavill as Superman. Though.
I did too. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, no, he's good too. But there was nothing wrong with Routh.
But the thing with Brandon Routh though is that the other problem with him though is that he is essentially a Christopher Reeve clone. I mean, essentially. So they really
Cavill's,
Cavill's completely. I mean, no, Brandon Routh. I mean, he imitated his voice. I mean, he looked like Christopher
mannerisms,
Reeve. Everything. He had. I mean, he couldn't be this new one.
But that's the director. That's not.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was like, I got to do.
Yeah.
Here's my impression of Christopher Reeve.
The bigger problem was what's her face, Lois Lane in that movie. She was the bigger problem.
Kate Bosworth.
Kate Bosworth. Yeah, she was the bigger problem for me.
And poor Cyclops.
Yeah,
was also in Superman Returns.
He was essentially Superman in that movie because he's the one who saves the day. Yeah. He's like the Gwyneth Paltrow in that movie.
Well, they had a Superman movie where Superman didn't do anything. I mean,
pretty much, except stalk his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, he was a super stalker,
creepy emo Superman
who never beat up anybody.
Right
in a movie.
And what is it you like to say? I've got a baby, but I don't remember.
Oh because of Superman because. For those who don't know, Superman Returns was supposed to be like this proto-sequel to Superman 2. Mm-hmm. And at the end of Superman 2, he kisses Lois Lane to make her forget everything.
Memory, yeah.
And then he comes back 5 years later and she has a kid. So why doesn't Lois Lane ever go to Superman? Hey, thanks for raping me, Superman, because she doesn't remember them having sex, because she doesn't remember he's Clark Kent.
So he's a rapist and a stalker.
Yeah.
I don't know why this movie failed.
I know. you know an American hero.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you got problems with Man of Steel? Get the hell out of here.
We could talk about that too. But no, it's Man of Steel was a serviceable reboot of Superman, I will say.
And to be honest, with the way they were going, aside from Batman, I mean that's the best they could hope for because Green Lantern
it wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed myself.
They did do something.
Yeah, I mean when I reviewed it, I gave it a B.
It's a B movie.
I didn't think it was
enjoyed it.
The greatest, but it was pretty good.
You know what? I came out of it thinking, all right, whatever, that's out of the way now. Give me Superman 2.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. Man of Steel 2
exactly.
now.
Yeah.
Because I think, everybody knows the origin of Superman.
Yeah, origin stories, especially for someone like Superman, a little tedious.
Yeah. You don't need to do that again. Yeah. So, now that that's out of the way, it's kind of like the way I felt about Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, God. Right.
we didn't even talk about Spider-Man.
Andrew Garfield, to me, was light years better than Tobey Maguire.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And again,
somebody's got to stop him.
This is not Tobey Maguire's fault, totally.
I hate Tobey Maguire.
But I don't think Peter Parker was written particularly well in the first Spider-Man trilogy. He wasn't very Peter Parker-ish.
No, he wasn't.
Whereas I thought, in Amazing Spider-Man, that was much closer to the Peter Parker that I'm looking for. It's, he makes quips. He's a funny guy. He goes from being...
He's smart.
He's He's one of the...
SMRT.
Yeah, SMRT. I hate to get into like this sort of fanboy power level discussion, but he's like the fourth or fifth smartest guy in the Marvel universe or something.
Yeah, he's a
brilliant dude, and he didn't come off that way in the original trilogy as much, I think, as he did in this one.
Somebody's got to stop him.
Well, that was that. I remember the debate when Spider-Man came out, the Maguire, about how the web is it.
Organic versus
and it's like, well, no, he creates the web shooters because he's fucking smart.
Yeah.
Like, don't make that some mutant power of his.
Yeah.
That's part of who he is.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I liked Amazing Spider-Man was okay. The only thing I didn't like about Amazing Spider-Man is that it's essentially
Spider-Man 1.
It was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1 with just a different villain.
With better actors and I don't think a better villain. I think the Lizard was absolutely ridiculous looking.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. Could have been great though.
Could have been really cool if they had decided to go the actual Lizard route with his.
Yeah, because
as Reese as Connors was great.
Yeah.
I like Reese as Connors.
I think he was good at human form, but then they were like, I know that a lot of the older Lizard comics have him looking sort of humanoid,
right,
as far as the face goes.
Right.
In live action, that looks awful.
Yeah.
It is really bad. And in half the movie, it looked like he had a smile on his face.
Yeah.
When he, when
it did look like he had a
Gwen
smile.
is stuck in the air conditioning shaft, and then
he pops up. Yeah,
there's that Jurassic Park moment, when the raptor is looking for her, and then she looks out and there's nothing there, and whammo, there's the lizard, and I laughed when that happened.
We were laughing that whole time
because he had this giant grin on his face, like cha cha cha, it's like
Groucho.
It was, and I just can't take him seriously when he looks that bad.
Amazing Spider-Man definitely had its problems. The thing I didn't like about the Lizard, like you said, is that they didn't do... He's supposed to be Jekyll and Hyde, and they made him more like the Green Goblin in the first one, where he just is crazy.
Inexplicably just starts talking to himself.
Yeah.
And develops this alternate
the Lizard... like, Kirk Connors is supposed to be like a really decent guy who's trying to protect his family, and that's why he leaves his family, because the Lizard is going to destroy everything.
Yeah.
But
it's like Man of Steel, Amazing Spider-Man, they rehashed the origins yet again.
Right.
I'm just, I take that aside. I'm done with that now. I know what the origins are. Just tell me the next story.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I'm really looking forward to. I like what I'm hearing about Amazing Spider-Man 2. They're sort of doing their own sort of mini version
of the Marvel Universe. Except it's the villains that are now...
The villains are going to be teaming up in Spider-Man.
I like that idea. I think that's a great idea. I'd love to see a team of super villains.
But you don't want to run into Batman Forever and Batman and Robin problems.
No. Yeah.
That's what happened.
Too much on the screen.
I think they're going to lead up to it slowly. I think we're going to get a couple in this one. I think you might get another one, or maybe a couple in the next one.
And that one chick, she's going to be Black Cat, right? I mean, they
haven't announced it, but she pretty much said,
she's Black Cat.
But they've proved that you can do it right with Avengers. Yes. You can have all these super characters on a screen at the same time. So it can be done, and you can do it with villains as well.
Yeah, you can do it with villains.
But the problem with the villains though is the villains aren't going to get their own movie to set them up, and that's the problem with Batman Forever and Batman and Batman Returns for that matter too. The last three Burton Batman movies, he had multiple villains for all of them, and that's what ruined
I think
them,
that's what Amazing Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 is going to do. It's going to build up the villain characters
to do Sinister Six,
and then 4 is going to be Sinister Six.
That'd be great.
I think that's a great plan.
Yeah, that is a good plan because that's how you have to do it with Spider-Man.
It's just unfortunate that we had to rehash the origin of Spider-Man 1. And
with the lizard as
Spider-Man has some great villains too.
He does. He's got a lot of cool villains.
Really cool,
and I love that. Sam Raimi did some sort of fantasy elements in his, but not enough, I would say. I mean, we got Power Ranger Goblin in the first movie, and it wasn't Green Goblin at all. And I think one good thing I'll say about Mark Webb is that he seems ready to do the fantasy. I mean, we got Lizard, my God, in the first one.
Yeah, that's the thing. People are. It's like this worked for one picture. Like you look at and I know this happened prior to a lot of Nolan stuff, but it's like it worked for one picture. So everyone jumps on it.
Oh, yeah.
On the bandwagon. But no, these are comic book characters. There's nothing wrong with creating a comic book movie.
To be honest, I mean, the thing with trying to ground it a little bit more, you can really take it all the way back to X-Men. Because X-Men, they didn't wear the costumes.
Yeah.
They really downplayed a lot of the stuff. They really tempered it because they were following on the heels of Batman and Robin.
Right.
So
they knew, and it worked, and it was fine.
Right.
And it was fine. Right. But you know what? They also could have made a comic book X-Men movie, and it would have been great too.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of what they're trying to do with the like First Class had a more comic inspired.
I'm just not feeling this.
I didn't particularly love First Class. I'm kind of in the minority there. I know a lot of people loved it.
I wasn't.
I wasn't either.
I didn't. The X-Teens I thought were terrible.
The best part of that movie, the Magneto stuff was fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought McAvoy did a good job as Professor X.
Yeah.
And then, but for me, the best part of the whole movie was when Hugh Jackman shows up in that cameo as Wolverine.
Those 10 seconds.
10 seconds was the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's pathetic. That's sad when you say that's the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't understand how Moira McTaggart, who is a geneticist in X-Men 3, started out as a CIA agent, field agent.
Well,
I don't know how that
Singer's
works.
going to have to repair, right? All
These, Days of Future Past is going to repair a lot of stuff.
It's going to have to repair, but I'm not quite feeling Days of Future Past yet.
I'm not either. That trailer...
The trailer's strange.
Is very odd.
Lacking.
It's kind of the tone they're setting is like very somber.
It's weird, right?
But there's no reason for the somber tone given in the trailer. It's like, what is this story that they're trying to tell? If you
it's because of the future past. Well, yeah, that's the thing. If you don't know what Days of Future Past,
watch that trailer and then come tell me what Days of Future Past is about. Yeah. It's about apparently bringing hope back to Professor X.
Which you know what? To be honest, I'm fine with not understanding the plot from a trailer. I'm okay with that at some level. But this is just.
Maybe as a teaser, but that felt more like an actual trailer.
Yeah.
And it's... I don't know. I didn't get a very good...
but come on, man. Dinklage.
Dinklage is badass. I'm not going to lie. I can't
wait. Great.
Actually, to be honest, the reason why it probably felt more like a trailer to you is because there's so many freaking characters in it. They had to add the time to it. So it probably actually would have only been like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But
that's another thing about that movie. There's like 40 X-Men. I think
the future X-Men, I think, are only going to be in it like briefly.
Well,
and it's mainly going to be Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen.
It's going to be Wolverine.
And Logan,
But we'll see. I'm not hopeless on the movie by any means.
Right. No.
It's just it hasn't grabbed me yet.
Yeah, it was. Going back to the '60s for the first movie was an interesting choice, but
I almost felt like they went back too far.
I think they went back too far, and I know it was kind of their way of rebooting the whole universe,
but they didn't though.
They didn't. And now I think they're trying again.
Yeah,
Days of Future Past.
I mean, that's the problem. That was a lot like
without doing it.
Yeah,
that was a lot like
there's time travel, which is like the biggest crutch.
The First Class movie was a lot like.
Why don't they just have someone wake up in the shower?
Superman could fly around backwards.
Why don't they just have someone wake up in the shower and it was all a dream?
Right.
The First Class movie, the first one, was a lot like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movie. It was like half a reboot, and that's you can't do it halfway. You have to do it like Batman Begins, which is just like those other movies never fucking happened.
Right.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So
you can't cherry pick. You can't cherry pick when you're rebooting what you want to include and not include. You either.
Right. It was a mistake to try and tie them in. I think.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that one turns out. Yeah.
And so that'll do it for episode 10 of the Hodgepodge Podcast. We'd like to thank our guest, Matt King, for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this was awesome. Thanks a lot for having me.
And you might be hearing from Matt sooner than you think on a future episode of the Hodgepodge Podcast.
We have some topics left to discuss.
We do. We just ran out of time on this episode. But we will definitely be having him back come next April for sure when Captain America comes out.
Winter Soldier.
But yeah, that'll do it for me and Dirty A.
Have a super week, folks.
Have a superhero week. And we'll see you next time.